Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanam Charashalakaya Chakshuram Malitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sundari Vastuchari Shri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna. So I'm really not sure how this is going to work because I had a whole sort of plan for what I was going to share and try to say something about. But inappropriate that I'm following on no please I need to present actually
This is really your fault. You never met him. You're following him. Fire. Living it. Please carry on.
That it kind of ties into what I've got a whole list of things and as I'm adding, oh, I need to say this, I need to say this. And actually, this is very, very unplanned, what I'm going to say now. At least, all of both of you, is that the psychic predicted and drown rogue or even lame, invalid or blind. So Chaitanya Charitamrita makes this very bold and clear declaration. This isn't something that Lord Chaitanya is hoping will happen. This is something that will happen. The Krishna consciousness movement will sweep through the whole world. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's Krishna. He's Radha Krishna Nahiyanya. He's Tita Gauda Hari. He is the most munificent incarnation. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Gauda Trisena. O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself, appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you have come to deliver pure love of Krishna to everyone. Like we were discussing this morning, in previous ages, when so much more qualified people than we could ever even hope to be, people living in Sattva Gun, people embodying the principles of sadhana and sattva, goodness, austerity, truthfulness, they would take their own lives to God, to bhakti. And through that dedication, they would attain the Lord in Vaikuntha. And here we are in Kali Yuga, such a fallen age. In this age of Kali, people live short lives, they are lazy, quarrelsome, always disturbed. Actually paints a very, very heavy picture of what Kali Yuga is. It paints a very heavy picture indeed of Kali Yuga. And in this very funny, when you look at the paintings from Srila Prabhupada's books, especially the ones that were done in the 1970s, they're almost comically over the top in their depiction of Kali Yuga. You know, it would be like brothel here, and slaughterhouse there. You know. It was just the most awful picture of Kali Yuga that you could possibly imagine. And it was always black, dark, and covered in black smoke. This was the depiction of Kali Yuga that Srila Prabhupada actually approved of through his artists in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But then when you see these pictures up at the top, there is Krishna. And there is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the effulgence coming from Krishna, from Goloka Vrindavan, shining through the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam and giving light in Kali Yuga. So Lord Chaitanya has come in this very, very, very sinful time, this very sinful age. And to the most unqualified, the most sinful people, he's giving the highest possible benediction, which was not even attainable by those great sages of previous ages, who were so much more qualified than we will ever hope to be. And the process by which one can come to that destination. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you can just remember 3 words. You don't need to remember the whole Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. You don't need to chant all these mantras and know all these mudras and all these different yas. Hare Krishna Rama. And you do that, you can go to Goloka Vrindavan. Now, we're actually reading today that the great Holy Lord Chaitanya when you're extreme as much as one can devote his full attention to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, to that extent he will be able to taste the nectarine service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. The more one engages in the service of Sri Chaitanya, the more one finds himself in Vrindavan, tasting the nectar of the service of Sri Radha. So this Krishna consciousness movement, this is a mission. It is a mission. Lord Chaitanya has descended to the material world. Sri Chaitanya Mano Krishnam Stham Utale Swayam Rupa Gadamaya Nati Swapadantika will established within the material world the mission of Lord Chaitanya, giving shelter at his lotus feet. So Lord Chaitanya came, he's given the process, he's given the teaching, he's given the philosophy, he's given the mercy. And then Rupa Goswami has taken all of that and he has established the mission. And then throughout the group Parampara, different acharyas have contributed to that mission. And Srila Lochandas Thakur, in one biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Chaitanya Mangalam, he describes how Lord Chaitanya said, I for all the sinful living entities, well, all to pay, who will travel all around the world of the and what that is the so-called material advancement, the world is not going in a positive direction. And we may make so many plans, and in one sense we should. A person make plans as to our children just need to go to school, need to get an education. And Lord Chaitanya is so merciful. You know, here we are, we're so fallen, we're so unqualified, and yet He's giving us this opportunity to take part in this mission. And what is the result of that opportunity? We take, by serving Lord Chaitanya, we taste the love of Radha and we go to Him despite our lack of qualification. You know, what right have to say anything? Yeah, it's inappropriate to speak after exalted souls like this. You know, you go to a rock festival, you know, and you wait for the headliner to come on, and then you see the headliner, you know, the support acts they can follow that. But I think what is appropriate is that is turned to his disciple, and rather than offering words of support and don't think this isn't going to happen to you. Srila Prabhupada did depart from the world physically. He's present eternally in his instructions, in his mission, in his blessings. But physically he did depart from the world. And the thing that we don't like to think about, and the thing that we don't like to talk about, is that one day Srila Prabhupada's disciples will also depart from the world. Every single one of them. And we have to keep that mission going. We have to keep the books going out. We have to keep the holy names going out. We have to inherit. We're not just inheriting a building. One day, temple presidents will no longer be here, and someone will inherit the responsibility of maintaining this on Newcastle. I'm only 46. Last October I was in Mayapur, and the reason I was in Mayapur is because a really dear friend of mine who I grew up with and who we became devotees together, Rāmānanda Dāsa. He had departed from the world not long earlier, and we took his ashes to Blackpool. Now, I joined in Blackpool this morning. If you haven't been there, please don't. But actually, in the mid-90s, a whole load of us from Blackpool went to live at our temple in Scotland. And a lot of us grew together, temple together. Now, three of my best friends who I grew up with and who I went with, they've passed away at different times over the last 30 years. One of them when he was in his 30s, one of them when he was in his 40s, and Rāmānanda was exactly the same age as me, 2 days older, in his early 50s. And when I went to take his ashes, I took my friend, we went to the Ganges before ceremony for Rāmānanda's last rites. And Radhikanagra, as we're walking along, and I've got Rāmānanda's ashes in my hands, Radhikanagra is just standing up. He said, it's interesting, isn't it? He said, you all joined together, and he said, Mom died, and then Sita died, and now Rāmānanda's died, and as we walk along, walking to the Ganges with my friend's ashes in my hand, and I'm like, you're trying to it's a fact. It's this is the world of birth and death. That Srila Prabhupada, one of Srila Prabhupada's greatest gifts that he gave us is the gift of sobriety and realism. Stop thinking that you're going to live forever and stop living like you're going to live forever. You're not. You're not going to live forever. Stop making plans as if you're going to live forever. You're not. It's a very we're inheriting something incredibly serious, and right now we should be going to these great souls and asking for their blessings and for their mercy to continue that mission. And I made a special note. I've said almost nothing that I plan to say, but I made a special note. I mean, I'm in my 50s now, but at least my days of running around the streets like a Tasmanian devil, Heath saw it, they're pretty much behind me. I don't have the energy that I had when I was a young man running around Yorkshire and Lancashire and Merseyside and literally every town and village in Scotland distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. I hope I can contribute something to Srila Prabhupada's mission. But one thing I made a note of here, and I think that this is very, very, very important indeed, because it's not just that those of us in our 50s and 60s and 70s should inherit the responsibility to Srila Prabhupada's movement. It's these devotees. We have to empower, encourage, and support the youngest members of the Krishna consciousness movement, those with the energy, those with the passion, those who actually see how the world works. As like Chaitanya said before, I'm giving examples. It's like I'm giving examples about bands and movies from the 1980s and 1990s to school kids in the school where I teach, and they're just looking at me like, who? What? They don't. I was in a bookshop, and this was 10 years. Actually, this was about 15 years ago. I was in a bookshop in Glasgow, and two girls were in the sort of aisle next to me, and I could hear them talking. And they were obviously in the section of the bookshop which was like entertainment and music. And I heard one of the girls say to the other, "Oh, the Beatles? I think they were a band, were they?" So we're giving classes to people in their teens and 20s, and we're saying, yeah, like George Harrison, he was a devotee. And they're just going, who? So we need the youngest members of the Krishna consciousness movement who know what is going on in the world, who know how social media is challenges and the difficulties and the young people, they're the ones who need to take up the responsibility of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. And this is a missionary movement, and Srila Prabhupada said, it is the responsibility for every devotee in the Krishna consciousness movement. Not everyone are my disciples, not every temple devotee. I think that the term temple devotee needs to be banned, because it suggests that if someone is geographically situated, and all that automatically makes more sincere. It's not necessary. Every temple devotee, he said, every member of the Krishna consciousness movement, their responsibility is to learn this art of distributing books and spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. Whether we're a worker, whether we're a temple devotee, whether we're a parent, whether we're a client, whether we're a student, wherever we are in life, every one of us has this responsibility to take this pattern from Srila Prabhupada's disciples and pass it on and keep them going. Is what you describe. This material world is going to hell, but the Krishna consciousness movement will save it in its darkest hour and will light up the world with pure love and mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is ISKCON. That is ISKCON. And our temples, they are, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, they are embassies. They are embassies of the spiritual world. If we come here and we become part of the mission of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, the members of the Pandita, Srila Prabhupada, if we commit to this mission, to whatever degree we can do, whether it's 1 day a month, 1 day a week, 7 days a week, whatever we're able to do, but if we dedicate ourselves to this mission, we walk into that embassy, passport stamped. Passport stamped, ticket back home. We are not going to live forever. Don't keep putting off surrendering to Krishna, thinking it's something I can do later on. What does surrendering to Krishna mean? Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, give up those things unfavorable and accept those things favorable. Think yourself meek and humble, depend upon Krishna. Surrendering is not a thing that happens one day when we just suddenly think, you know what? I remember we used to go out, or I used to go out on book distribution, you still do. We used to go out on book distribution and I would be struggling. And someone would say, well, just surrender. Just surrender to Krishna. What does that even mean? Just surrender. Okay, I'm kind of here. I thought I was surrendering to Krishna. I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I'm trying to approach people. I thought I was surrendering to Krishna. What does that mean? Just surrender to Krishna. And we kind of have this thing that, well, one day it'll suddenly happen that I'll surrender to Krishna. But surrendering is a process. It's not something that isn't happening 1 second and then we do it the next and that's it. Now I'm surrendered. It's a process. We learn to give up those things that are unfavorable. We learn to accept those things that are favorable. And even that is very subjective. What is favorable for me may not be favorable for you. And that is why we need guru. That is why we need mentors. That is why we need people to help us and to guide us and say, you know, knowing you the way I do, this is the best situation for you. And this is how you could best practice Krishna consciousness. You know, for someone, favorable is become a brahmachari, move into the temple, dedicate yourself 24 hours a day. To someone else, favorable is get married, have 9 kids. That's favorable for some people. So what is favorable is very unique, very individual, because Krishna is a person and we are people. And we're all individuals and we all have our own individual, unique, completely one-of-a-kind relationship with Krishna. So let's empower our children. Let's empower each other. Let us beg for the blessings and the mercy of those devotees who are still with us. And let us actually really inherit ISKCON. Think about it. ISKCON is 60 years old. That means that devotees have been in ISKCON at least 60 years. They've dedicated their lives. Now, if we're going to learn by example, we need to figure out how we can dedicate our lives. Celebrating 60 years of ISKCON should involve thinking very seriously about how we are going to inherit ISKCON and how being a follower of Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada was very, very strong about this principle that he is the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He wouldn't allow any of his books to be published without that statement being there. His temples all include that. That is, Srila Prabhupada as the ultimate guiding authority in ISKCON doesn't end with Srila Prabhupada's disciples. That is also something we inherit. We inherit his books. We inherit his teachings. We inherit his mission. He is the preeminent Shiksha Guru of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the founder Acharya, and he is the glue which is holding this whole movement together. If when Srila Prabhupada's disciples are no longer with us, this mission breaks up into, well, this is my guru, this is my guru, this is my guru's mission, this is my guru's project. That is not what ISKCON is about. We may have our guru, we may have our mentor, we may have those devotees who are us, but what is the common factor which is holding us all together, gluing us all together, it is the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada and his mission, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. There are going to be ups and downs. We are going to make mistakes. But that always happens. Children make mistakes. This movement is still like a child. In the picture of 10,000 years, 60 years, we're barely toddlers. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to mispronounce words. But let's learn from those mistakes and let's inherit this mission and let's all become missionaries in the service of Srila Prabhupada. None of this is what I had written down, and I will stop there. But we are asking for the blessings of Srila Prabhupada's disciples that we can become empowered to continue Srila Prabhupada's legacy. Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada's disciples ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Sri Sri Panchadeva ki jai, ISKCON ki jai, ISKCON Newcastle ki jai, Nitai Gaura Brahmananda.
His Grace Rāmānanda Dāsa ki jai. So